Canadians are mean and nasty. That is what the President of the United States thinks of you, because you stopped buying American products, because you canceled your American vacations, because you pulled American whiskey off your shelves, because you chose to spend your money in your own country. That made them angry. Not because you were wrong, because it worked. The busiest international border in the world went quiet. Crossings dropped 30%, 10 straight months. And, still falling, 450,000 airline seats from Canada to the U.S. canceled in a single quarter. WestJet cut nearly a fifth of its American routes. Flair Airlines cut more than half. One carrier pulled out of the American market completely, just packed up and left. Routes that had been running for years, gone in weeks. Every empty hotel room, every canceled reservation, every restaurant waiting for customers who never showed up, every beach town that depended on Canadian dollars, suddenly realizing those dollars are never coming back. All of it added up to $4.5 billion from one country, from 40 million people who decided where to spend their own money. No government ordered this. No army crossed a border. No sanctions bill. Just 40 million wallets closing at the same time. And it left a $4.5 billion hole in the American economy that nobody in Washington knows how to fill. Washington expected protests. They expected angry letters from Ottawa. They expected it to blow over in a few weeks. Maybe a month. Maybe 2. It did not blow over. It got worse. Every single month. Worse than the one before. And the Americans who depend on Canadian money for their livelihoods started to panic. And while Washington was trying to figure out what hit them, the damage was already on the ground. A hotel in Montana lost $38,000 in one night. A Canadian hockey team canceled 70 rooms. A 200-person dinner. Gone. Canadians had been nearly 80% of Montana's international visitors. Nearly 80%. And they stopped showing up. A store owner in New Hampshire said the flood of Canadian families heading to the beach simply did not come this year. His parking lot sat empty all summer. State campground reservations collapsed more than 70%. Weekends that used to sell out months in advance. 30% of rooms sitting empty. In Washington state, border crossings dropped nearly a quarter. Cities like Spokane lost a third of their Canadian visitors. A duty-free shop near the border cut its staff from 20 to 3. 20 employees serving Canadian tourists one year. 3 employees staring at an empty store the next. American business owners went to Congress with the same message. Canadians are gutting our revenue and we cannot do anything about it. A senator from New Hampshire said American businesses are now in jeopardy because of, her words, reckless tariffs and needless provocations. An American senator blaming her own government for what you did. Provinces pulled American whiskey, wine, and beer off the shelves. Every major liquor board in the country made sure it was visible. Shelves that carried American brands for decades went bare overnight. And Canadian distillers, Canadian wineries, Canadian craft breweries moved in to take every inch of that space. What used to be American shelf space became a showcase for Canadian products. Bourbon exports to Canada collapsed 60%. American spirits overall dropped 68% in a single month. Jim Beam, one of the most recognized brands in America, halted production at its Kentucky distillery. A bourbon distillery in Kentucky went silent, not because of a supply issue, not because of a labor dispute, because Canadians decided they were done drinking American. Canada targeted Florida orange juice next. Imports dropped 41%. This was deliberate, product by product, shelf by shelf, and the numbers kept getting worse every month. There was no sign of it slowing down. Every month, the data came in, and every month, it was worse. American senators got on a plane to Ottawa, sat down across from Canadian officials, and Senator Maggie Hassan from New Hampshire said, "We miss you." An American senator saying, "We miss you," asking Canada to come back. She was not the only one. Multiple senators made the trip. They sat in Canadian offices and asked, how to fix this? Because back home, their small businesses were drowning. Their tourism boards were panicking. Their border towns were bleeding money. And none of them had a solution. America's own congressional report laid it out. The boycott is hitting border states hard. Their words, their data, their government documenting what 40 million Canadians did to their economy. And while Washington was asking Canada to come back, Canadians were already gone. Toronto to Cancun became Mexico's single busiest international route. It replaced Dallas at the top. It replaced Houston. Airlines added routes to Europe, to the Caribbean, to Southeast Asia. The money did not vanish. It moved. Every dollar that used to flow into an American hotel room, or an American restaurant, or an American gift shop went somewhere else. Mexico, Portugal, Japan, Greece. Canadians started booking vacations in their own country. Banff, Prince Edward Island, the Okanagan. Money that used to leave Canada every winter stayed home for the first time in a generation. Anywhere and everywhere except the United States. 91% of Canadians now say they want less reliance on the United States. Not a temporary pause, not waiting for an apology. 91% want a permanent shift away from America, and that number is still climbing. You can see it in Florida. A real estate agent in Fort Lauderdale has 35 properties listed right now, 30 of them Canadian-owned, 0 Canadian buyers. She said, in 12 years of selling, she has never seen anything like it. Condos that used to sell in a week are sitting empty month after month. One motel owner watched a customer drop a $1,000 deposit on the counter and book a flight to Cuba instead. A woman in British Columbia walked away from $5,000, a deposit on a 5-week vacation in Palm Springs. She did not call to negotiate. She did not ask for her money back. She let it go and stayed home. Florida had 3.3 million Canadian visitors last year, 3 times more than any other country on earth. That was the single biggest source of international tourism money the state had. Those visitors spent money on hotels, restaurants, rentals, groceries, gas, thousands of dollars each for months at a time. Entire communities in South Florida were built around the assumption that Canadians would show up every winter. Golf courses that scheduled their peak season around snowbird arrivals. Medical clinics that staffed up in January because Canadians were coming. Restaurants that doubled their kitchen staff from November to April. They are not showing up anymore. And those communities are starting to feel every missing dollar. This boycott is 12 months old, 12 consecutive months. And every month it gets bigger. Not smaller, bigger. Every insult out of Washington adds to it. Every tariff threat. Every time someone in the White House says something dismissive about Canada, another person decides they are finished. 40 million individual decisions. Every single day. No organization behind it. No leader. No campaign. Just Canadians choosing to keep their money where it is respected. $4.5 billion so far. And that number has not stopped moving. Because this is not a moment. This is a shift. Canadians are not waiting for things to get better. They are building new habits. New travel patterns, new supply chains, new relationships with countries that actually want their business. And once those habits set in, they do not reverse. The Americans who lost Canadian customers are not getting them back by waiting. And Washington has not offered them a single reason to come back. Which province are you watching from? Drop it in the comments. I am genuinely curious where you all are. And if this helped you understand what your choices actually accomplished, hit the hype button below. It puts this on the Canadian leaderboard so more Canadians can see these numbers. You get 3 hypes a week. This is worth one of them. One last thing about the man they sent to insult you. Before they sent him to Canada, they sent him to the Netherlands. And in that job, he went on camera and claimed that politicians in the Netherlands were being set on fire. A Dutch reporter asked him about it. He looked straight at the camera and said, "I never said that. That is fake news." The reporter had the tape. He played it back. Right there. Same room, same camera. The ambassador looked at him and said, "I did not call that fake news." He had just said it seconds earlier on the same recording. This is who America sent to judge Canadians. A man caught lying on camera twice in 60 seconds, and he cannot figure out why 40 million of you stopped buying American bourbon. They called you mean and nasty because you stopped spending your money in their country 12 months later. $4.5 billion. And now they are asking you to come back. If you have not seen what happened when Trump tried to take Canada's water, that is where this all started.